have asked people to uh, put up your hand if you want, so you can go to. I think if you just do this on reactions, let's see if I do it. Uh, didn't do it for me.
So I can see Ken's got his hand up.
I have about 20 questions. Literally, this is a subject that's very interesting to me. But I don't want to monopolize everybody's time because I'm sure other people have questions too. So I don't know how much you want to limit me tonight because I really could talk for the next hour and have questions for the next hour. Do you have any guidelines you want to instill on me?
Well, this is a night of new things. Why don't I ask you to start off with your top three questions, and then we'll figure out what to do after that.
I think we've had drummed into us that electricity is bad. Electricity is a horrible thing, and we should not use it. And I can tell that because electricity rates go up every year. I can tell that because historically, although much less often today than before, but historically, those who use the most energy paid the highest marginal rates. And so if somebody wanted to electrify, they're going to guarantee that they're going to be put in an extremely high rate. And that seemed to be the exact opposite of what we should be encouraging people to do. In fact, I would advocate that rates should go down as you use more electricity. The marginal rate should go down to encourage people to do things such as install heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, those sorts of things.
I saw Tom wanted to answer that.
Yeah, so Ken, I've noticed some of the same biases, and California's been kind of slow to adapt to the idea that electricity can be the clean solution. But now, just in the past 2 or 3 years, different branches of the state government are figuring that out. And so one of the things we've had is a number of new electric rate alternatives are put forward that don't have those increasing block rates. They have, all the electricity is the same price no matter how much you use. And then they're going to also these time of day structures instead of amount you use structures. And so those are encouraging us to, as they roll out, they encourage us to use energy during the daylight hours when there's extra solar power on the California grid, and then to not use it during the hours roughly 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. when there's not much solar or zero solar on the grid usually. And then the wind hasn't really picked up. So the rates are changing to encourage our proper behavior, and new rates are coming out that are not volume based. They're they're not increasing block rate.
They're moving that direction. I can see they're moving that, but it seems to me that everything happens 5 years after it should have happened. I mean, 20 years ago, the rates would have been rational. It would have been rational to charge more for electricity, especially during the day, which would be absolutely the best time to charge more for electricity. 10 years ago.
Right.
But it's the exact opposite today. In fact, our lowest rates are between typically late at night and then late in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. But actually, we have a lot lower net demand during the day than we do at 2 in the morning. So we have lower net demand at 2 in the afternoon than 2 in the morning, but the rates are typically the same. And so if we wanted to encourage people to use electricity, during the day, the rate should be lowest during the day, higher at night, and then highest in the evening, which is, not what they do.
Right. So yeah, you're definitely preaching to a 30-year electric and gas utility planner, and I agree with you that rate reform is needed, and it's behind the times. There's also a need for solar rate reform, net energy metering rate reform. So that's happening this year. There will be hearings on that. So there's lots going on to try to make the rates more rational. And like Bret said, I agree. We don't want to have electric volume paying for forest fires. Forest fires, are something I need to pay for other ways, like through my income taxes, but not through my electric bill.
Well, another way we could do it, it's kind of interesting in that my water bill, I have a connection fee, and then I pay per 100 cubic feet or something of that nature. So there's a lot of the fixed costs are in that connection fee. But in my electric bill, historically, it's been the exact opposite. So even though the utilities have very high um, fixed costs, that is all embodied in the cost per kilowatt hour. So ironically, it would make more sense to have things switched between water and electricity, but we don't do it that way. So I think your observation, a couple of you guys mentioned the rate structures are crazy. I'll admit they get better every year, but they just seem to take a long time for that to happen.
Yep.
So, you want my next question or comment?
Yeah. Well, try to make it a question. I mean,
Oh, okay.
maybe we can have another forum.
Well, I guess my impression, the other thing that's been drummed into me is, gas is cheaper. And I don't know, I know heat pumps are getting better, but is it still true that gas is cheaper? And then how are you going to convince people to convert to like heat pump for space heating if they know they're going to have to pay more for it than if they stay with gas?
So if I can do a screen share, maybe I can show you some other analysis we're doing on that cost effectiveness question. Let's see if I find the right.
Go ahead. You should still have the authority to do that.
Okay. All right. So if you can see this graph, I'm gonna put in an electric vehicle charger. This is for full cost replacement. One moment. Okay, so when I switch here to put in, I'm going to get rid of the EV charger, watch it go away for a second. So now I'm going to put it back in and explain what the graph's showing. Put in the EV charger. Okay, so the gray bars here, across the top, that's the carbon emissions of the household. And putting the EV charger in there and charging the car with electricity cut the carbon emissions from the household quite a bit, almost in half in that car case. And the orange line shows business as usual energy costs. That includes gasoline, electricity, and natural gas. And I'm noticing, I've got a carbon tax in there while I'm doing this, so I'll take it out in a moment. But the blue line was the costs with the electrification. And so the total energy costs dropped compared to business as usual. Putting in the electric vehicle dropped that. I'm going to get rid of the carbon tax for a minute because we don't.
Stop for a second. So the drop, was that because you were able to get a better rate with the vehicle?
It's not necessarily the better rate. It was just that it's a lot cheaper to power and maintain an electric vehicle than it is to power and maintain a gasoline vehicle. So that's just the economics of the vehicle, really.
I don't know, but I don't know if that's true or not, because I've got an electric car, and granted, I get energy really cheap during the day, but I got to pay 50 cents a kilowatt hour, at night when a lot of energy gets used. And I don't know if is that in that equation, the fact that I've got to be on a higher rate structure during what might be a high use period?
Yeah, so this one had it on the PG&E EV2A rate, which is low except for, I think it's 5 to 9 p.m. So here I just
it's lower. The highest is 4 to 9, And then there's an mid-peak, 3 to 4, and 9 to midnight.
Right. So yeah, so we were, that was an example of charging in the lower rate periods. But
Mhm.
here I'm just layering in a couple more devices, like, I'm going to take out heat pump space heating. And so we see it now with regular gas-fired space heating. The carbon emissions are still up here. The cost is there. I've taken out the carbon tax. And now I'm going to insert heat pump space conditioning. And so it got rid of a bunch more carbon, but oh, it drove the blue line above the orange. And I was using a 12-year loan at 5% interest to do that. So it was a little bit uneconomic. Like you were saying, natural gas is a very cheap fuel because it doesn't pay for its externalities currently. It's got a
Right.
sweetheart deal. And so we make our future generations pay for our current natural gas use. But anyway, so there are, different ways to do this here. It's really helpful if I put in a solar system. Okay, I also finance the solar system with a 12-year loan. You can really see when the 12-year loan is paid off, boom, my costs are way down. I've got my working solar system, but I'm no longer making loan payments. I'm going to go extend the financing for a second out to 20 years. And okay, so then I get more cost parity, equal costs for the front couple of years, then I'm in the advantage side. My retrofit costs are less than my business as usual. Anyway, we're putting together the financial, analysis models of doing these things and trying to see, what does it look like for the customer, and how does it work? It's tough. Actually, the greatest thing is having a carbon tax. This is, if I put in $125 a ton carbon tax, that's about 6 cents a pound. What else can you buy for 6 cents a pound? And this is just the fee to damage our children and their children forever. And
Well, I think the thing that would fix that was charge everybody $30 a month to be hooked up to the grid,
yeah,
and then lower the cost of electricity 10 or 15 cents a kilowatt hour,
yep,
and it'd be an immediate payback. It would be, everybody would rush to put in heat pumps
hmm
because everybody would be saving money.
hmm
Yeah,
yep.
I think
That sounds like good advice, and that's the kind that Severin Bornstein talks about frequently. And I think it makes sense. Also, there's one other thing they do in Japan. They charge for the amperage of your connection. So people with a higher panel capacity pay more in Japan than people with a low panel capacity. Just for, like what kind of connection and grid stress are you able to do?
That would make sense.
Yep.
I think
Um,
Ken, just to take one more crack at answering your question at the beginning there, the efficiency of heat pumps compared to gas is probably 4 to 6 times right now.
Mm.
Now, granted, the cost per unit of energy for gas is about the same factor less than electricity, because and it depends where you are in California, but the electricity rates are pretty high. So if you're talking 25 cents, 26 cents for a kilowatt hour, and you're getting gas for just over $1 a therm, you're in that area of 4 to 5 factor X. So right about now, and it's gotten a little bit worse in the last year because we've raised electricity rates a little bit more than gas rates in many areas. In SMUD, there's a very nice differential between gas and electricity. So it's already making you money. No matter what you buy there, you're going to save money. Whereas in Palo Alto, the difference between last year and this year, we lowered gas prices and kept electricity pretty stable. So we just ruined the payback temporarily on those devices. But all in all, I mean, we kind of looked at this, and right now it's about parity. The efficiency factor is about the same as the cost differential. So it kind of cancels out. So you're not going to really make too much or lose too much if you go electric on your water heater or your space heater. But we're seeing that in the future,
if you're looking 5 to 10 years out, and these devices will last that long, there is going to be a widening differential between electricity and gas, just as this transition plays out. And if we do eventually get our rates rational for electricity, because they just don't make sense right now. But even though they don't make sense, we're still kind of break even on that. So we can make this work because we've got those off-the-shelf solutions that are already that efficient. The efficiency goes up every year. So they're increasing those factors. So that's also playing in our favor as the electric efficiency goes up, and you're not going to see increases on gas efficiency. It just doesn't go over, 100%. You just physically can't do it. So we have those factors working in our favor, but it really does, you have to kind of do your local electricity supply versus gas supply calculation if you want to calculate short term what the operating cost will be.
Okay.
One thing that I've noticed.
Ken, you kind of warned us, so I think let's see what other people have in mind.
Let other people talk a while.
But I'll just make one comment. We're talking about optimizing or minimizing greenhouse gas emissions, and not necessarily optimizing for cost. But so, what other questions do we have on here? Nobody?
I've got a question.
I knew Molly would come up.
So is there ever going to be a point where they just say you cannot sell gas powered furnaces, water heaters and things like that? I mean, if it's going to be not acceptable to install them, why do we even sell them?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of us are working on that process. Just like here, you can't build a new wood-fired fireplace because we're too densely packed. We've got too many lungs breathing the exhaust of each new fireplace. So there are rules that prohibit certain types of devices. Same with water heaters. You can't buy a regular gas tank water heater anymore. It has to be a low NOx, nitrous oxide, or NOx pollution device. So we're working with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District to explore going to a zero NOx standard for future appliances. They would phase that in over a number of years if they, have the courage to do it. It would clean up our air and also the air downwind of us in the San Joaquin Valley, which is a highly impacted area. And it's really unjust that we put our pollution out, it drifts down there. So there's that way, if we can get the devices off the shelves, it will really help. So there are two fairly radical, because we're preventing the damage to people, solutions. One is get the devices off the shelf. The other highly radical idea is to have a group put out an end of flow date in their planning to say, buy whatever you want. There just won't be any gas in the pipe after the year 2041, or, they pick some date, but just, public, be warned, we've told you about the transition, and do what you want. It's your money, and we won't be flowing any more chemicals. And so, you may want to plan accordingly. So that would be highly radical to be fair to the future. We've never been fair to the future before. So these things are controversial.
Yeah, the future is coming closer, I think. I think the red skies, and I know some people who were chased out of their house in Vacaville because of the fires. I think we're beginning to see that this is for real, and it's not going to get better.
Well, I think, to maybe just one more answer to Molly, our idea with Be Smart is the economics are actually there to make this a good deal for the utility to really install these things in everybody's homes. They can make it work because they control the rates. They get the margin. They collect the margin on the additional electricity. So, they're setting their rates at 28 cents per kilowatt hour because PG&E's rates are there. But their cost is less than that. They've got some margin to work with. So economically, it makes sense long-term to do this. So if we can get those utilities to say, hey, this is your business long-term, and we can say, oh, well, that means we can put together a program that's basically bill neutral for a customer, and they get all these health benefits. Yeah, we'll pass a gas ban. We won't let gas devices anymore because you've kind of covered us from the economic hardship that might otherwise create. So I think if we can create these programs that are easy, then we can say to city councils, yes, you're okay if you pass this ban right now. You're not going to get this, political resistance, which is all around cost and equity right now. That's what's holding us back. It's not the underlying economics or the technology. It's just this political will to do.
Thank you. Terry?
I have a question, yes. Are there electric furnaces that are compatible with an Eichler's radiant heating system, or would electrifying involve adding ductwork?
There are air to water heat pumps that would work with an Eichler's water radiant, hydronic floor system.
Cool.
So one brand is Chiltrix, and I think another is Arctic, but they're in the guide. I